Hi, Pastor Ed here with Daily Devotions for Saturday, January the 7th, 2022. We're continuing our look at Matthew's Gospel, chapters 1 and chapter 2, leading up to the lesson that we'll have tomorrow in church, the baptism of Jesus and the ministry of John the Baptist from Matthew 3. But we're concluding here with looking at Matthew 2. And of course, Matthew 2 has the account of the visit of the wise men who were magi, astrologers from the east. I talked earlier that scientifically we know that there was once in 800-year conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn and Mars that would have caught their eye. Williams Comet number 52. And then 53 would have been seen in the sky that would have led them. That could have very well been the star that the Bible talks about, that Matthew talks about. They come to Jerusalem. They run into Herod. Herod, of course, is this maniacal, paranoid vassal king of the Roman emperors or the Roman Empire, and he says, "Oh, I want to worship him too." Of course, he just wants to eliminate this child, and he asks the wise men to let him know when and if they found him. And of course, what happens is that the wise men do visit the child Jesus and his parents there in Bethlehem. They've been warned in a dream. They depart another way. Herod, of course, becomes uncontrollably angry. He sends, according to Matthew, he destroys all of the children, male children, 2 years old or younger, based on when the child might have been born. And again, that leads us to believe that the wise men did not come immediately after Jesus' birth. It might have been a matter of weeks, months, or even again up to 2 years. And so they depart by another way. And but Joseph and Mary then are warned, had been warned. That's why they left Egypt, or left for Egypt. We don't know how it was that they came to travel there, or where actually they went there. There is a legend, and I put the heavy emphasis on the word legend, that they were stopped by robbers on the way. And the robbers, since they had next to nothing, the robbers had compassion on them and gave them food and drink and provisions and so forth. And again, according to the legend, one of those robbers was one of the thieves on the cross at Jesus' crucifixion. Again, highly speculative, highly improbable even, but that was an ancient legend. Which brings us to the last verses of Matthew 2, which I'll read for you. When Herod died, an angel of the Lord suddenly appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt and said, "Get up, take the child and his mother, and go to the land of Israel, for those who were seeking the child's life are dead." Joseph got up, took the child and his mother, and went to the land of Israel. But when he heard that Archelaus was ruling over Judea in place of his father Herod, he was afraid to go there. After being warned in a dream, he went away to the district of Galilee. And there he made his home in a town called Nazareth, so that what had been spoken through the prophets might be fulfilled: he will be called a Nazarene. Paul Meyer, who wrote the book of The First Christmas that I have referred to a number of times this week, said that when Mary and Joseph were returning to their homeland, an unhappy surprise awaited them. Herod was indeed dead, but his son Archelaus now ruled Judea as his successor. And he had begun his reign with a massacre of 3,000 Jews who had rebelled against him in the temple of Jerusalem. Better to return home to Galilee, they decided, where a milder son of Herod named Antipas had been appointed tetrarch with the permission of the Roman Emperor Augustus. So Archelaus seemed to be, at least apparently, a chip off the old block. So they end up going to Nazareth, which is Galilee, is under the rule of Herod Antipas. Meyer calls him a milder version. Antipas was not such a great guy either. He's basically the guy who later on has John the Baptist beheaded, and is also involved in the story of Jesus' execution, where Pilate sends him to Antipas because that's where Jesus had come from, and Antipas doesn't want any part of that. And of course, then ultimately under Pilate's jurisdiction, Jesus is executed. And so that kind of brings us full circle, and they're back in Nazareth. And again, with what we talked about last week from Luke, it's entirely possible that, again, as I suggested, and again, there's no way of knowing for sure, but it made sense to me that maybe Mary was from Nazareth, Joseph's from Bethlehem. They encountered each other. They became engaged. They did the whole betrothal thing with her family in Nazareth. There is a census that requires him not to go to your ancestral home, but to your own hometown for tax purposes, which leads them to Bethlehem. And then Matthew's story picks it up where now they flee to Egypt. Then after Herod's death, they return, but hearing that Archelaus is ruling, they end up going to Nazareth. Well, why Nazareth? Well, if that's Mary's hometown, it makes perfect sense. At least it all kind of falls into place. We have no way really of knowing, but that's an intriguing way of thinking about it, at least in my estimation. So that brings us to Jesus being raised in Nazareth. And we're going to find out tomorrow with his baptism that there's a huge gap. There's silent years. We don't know from Matthew, but we know from Luke that Jesus was about 30 years of age when he began his ministry. And so if he was, a toddler here in Matthew, there's a big gap in his life that we just know nothing about before he begins his public ministry by being baptized by John. But that's the story for tomorrow as we continue the unfolding gospel story according to Matthew. Have a great day. Hope to see you in church, either in person or online. And then we'll be back with daily devotions on Tuesday. Till then, take care. Bye.